YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Legend of Korra Book 3 Change episode commentary. This one's going to be for K310, episode 10, Long Live the Queen. To get your copy of the episode synced up with this commentary track, what you need to do is have the episode ready to start, including the opening, so have it ready to start with the Kyoshi Earth, Fire, Air, Water bit, and then I'm going to stop speaking in a moment, and then when I come back after that pause, you hit play, I'll hit play, and we'll be completely synced up. So, I'm going to stop speaking now, hit play when I start speaking again. Okay, so here we are with Long Live the Queen, a very memorable episode, though I think primarily for one scene, that obviously being Zahir killing Hu Ting. I think overall it's still a solid episode, and that while that's happening, you have Korra escaping in the background, which I'm not going to say it's the best section of episode we've got, but it is interesting at least. But I think the main thing definitely to remember for is just the manner in which he killed the queen, using that technique we've been waiting so long for, and also what that moment kind of does for these villains and does for the series in terms of how intense things are for the remaining few episodes. In that it's now established that these characters are willing to kill to get their way, and them killing the queen shows that they are to some extent, willing to kill Korra, even though they have reasons for why they haven't killed her, despite having the chances to. But it really gets over, they'll kill Korra's friends just to get a hold of her, and that's a big moment. But on the other side of things, Korra's being transferred, obviously, back to Ba Sing Se, and we have Korra and Asami escaping, and this whole kind of plot in the Siwang Desert again. Interesting that you see kind of how smart Asami is, doing some little thing, working her charms to kind of get some sense of, getting out of the place. And yeah, she just has to get chained to the wall rather than the floor, because obviously she realizes it'll be easier to pull it off. And then Korra gets nothing because she's dangerous, she's a bender, But Asami, non-bender, what's she gonna do if I just chain her to the wall instead of the floor? Does it really matter? Yeah, I kind of like the kind of ironic thing about the whole book's kind of been about their coming back of the Air Nation, but can't get rid of air. Nothing much we can do about that compared to what Zahir's going to do to the Queen later on. It's like, oh, airbenders can actually restrict air from people. But here's a scene I've referenced multiple times with Gazan and Minghua. This is the only time in the entire season, their entire involvement in the show, where we get any semblance of character development for these two characters. We learn why they were so upset about being in prison, that they don't like being in prison. We learn a little bit about Gazan through just the kind of things that Bolin says about him, and then he confirms that 2 out of 3 are correct. And you learn a little bit about Minghua's stuff about being annoyed about no rain and stuff like that. And that she's interested in the kind of relationship stuff about the guards around her when she was in prison. But that's all there is for these two, beyond just their powers and them being involved in fights. Why have these two joined this group? Why do they support Zahir so much? Why did these 4 become a group? These are the sort of questions that just aren't answered, apart from the fact that they're all in the Red Lotus. But yeah, we get some. I suppose Zahir gets to do a little bit more talking in this episode with how he approaches dealing with the Queen. Even though he hates her being a world leader, he still tries to do it without having to resort to violence. He tries to kind of convince her to basically give Korra over to him, which we'll see later on. But yeah, Asami, great knowledge of engineering, realizes that this isn't a good quality airship made by Cabbage Corp, I believe, and she just takes it off and can escape pretty much. And yeah, I kind of like just the plan that the two come up with. She's like that the two have to trust each other. Asami's going to do this thing, she's going to get it done in 5 minutes. And Korra screaming is just as important as what Asami's doing. And yeah, we return to see Earth Queen Hu Ting again, and again she has a really kind of odd role in the book in that she is one of the kind of villains, quote unquote, of the book, but she's not really involved too much. Like a lot of her plans end up not going anywhere. Like her whole airbending army thing just resolved completely, not really a deal anymore. Her vendetta against Korra for what happened, not really a deal after this episode because the Red Lotus kind of come in and take over. Um, it just kind of adds to what I've been saying in the past few commentaries, just about there's a little bit too much going on in book three. Just like this queen, I feel could have almost been a villain, just in terms of like this villain who doesn't fight herself but has other people fight for her. That sort of a villain throughout this book, and just focus on more character stuff, and then have the Red Lotus be villains in their own this season without all this other stuff going on. But yeah, for what it is, it works. And yeah, he wants to trade information about her airbenders for the Avatar because he convinces her that, you capturing the Avatar is not going to look well to the rest of the world. You're going to get a lot of people annoying you because you've done this, and you could potentially start a new war. And as powerful as the Earth Kingdom is, it's not going to work out very well for you. So he's very it's interesting how he approaches this. He tries to make a deal with her and tries to be kind of be respectful to her, even though he has no respect for her as a world leader and someone who doesn't care for anyone's freedom. All the while Mako and Bolin just tied up there in the middle of the floor. Not up to much. And yeah, so this is kind of set up for, okay, they're going to be put in prison, and Bolin, if he can do metal bending, can get them out, but that's not how things play out. He doesn't actually become a metal bender, lava bender. And yep, there's the plan. Straight into action. And they're both free now, basically. And immediately they try and take over the ship, and Korra is a little bit overly aggressive and basically means that the ship crashes into the desert. And it creates an interesting dynamic just because you have to see, these people have just captured Korra. They all crash in the desert. They all have to work together to get out. And the crew basically see through Korra and Asami's actions that these guys aren't the villains that they're transporting around the place, and more, people they can't trust, to the point where they actually let them go at the end. But yeah, it's nice that we get the location again. The Siwang Desert. We get to see a new animal in the sand shark. And there's a little plot with that being the kind of villain of this part of the story, even though it's just an animal. That's not really resolved the best, but it's okay. The episode does really get across how intelligent Asami is, and she really heavily puts Asami in a position where she can show off her skills very effectively. She's the only one there who knows really how to prepare, fix the ship, and later on, when the ship is completely destroyed, create a sand sailor basically out of scrap. And then yeah, there's this weird reveal with the captain that like he keeps his I think it's his right hand in his pocket like the whole episode, and then it turns out to be a hook at the end for like no apparent reason. And yeah, Core knows that she's just better than them, and if they attempt to fight her, it's just over for them. She can beat them. And here's the first sighting of the sand shark. Interestingly, we didn't see this in Avatar at all, even though they were, the Team Avatar were walking through the desert. Maybe it's a new thing. Maybe it was younger back then. It has been 70 years. Maybe it just recently arrived from like the spirit world. There's a weird thing with that, like is the spirit world, like are the animals there real, or it's interesting. Yeah. Korra getting the airship out, while Mako and Bolin are in prison. It's just something like the Avatar shows in general seem to do. There's like a couple of characters are in prison, and then you think they're just going to be among a bunch of lowlives, but it turns out that the people around them are good people for the most part, that are just in prison for like weird reasons, and there's lots of joking around the fact that they're in prison. Like, very few times you actually see characters just like suffering in prison. It's interesting. Like, really, like, it's like the Red Lotus kind of suffered in prison, I suppose, and Hama. Other than that, like, our heroes are captured and they're just like, oh, things are great in prison, like Aang and like Avatar Day. And then yeah, this totally doesn't work. That technique with those hand movements, not great. Like, as a bender, like, does he not know, like, even though he's trying to do metal bending here, that that won't work doing bending like that? Toilet paper. And here's Lin coming out after Korra. Obviously, Lin's kind of Korra's protector for most of the series. Yeah, and this is kind of just, I suppose, set up for Lin meeting, Naga here, and then Tonrock and Zuko at the end of the episode, and that sets into play that Tonrock's going to be involved in the finale. Zuko leaves to kind of protect his daughter and stuff like that. But I kind of like with Lin, you get this, that she's the one who's kind of been mean to Naga in the earlier episodes, and she's the one to give Naga a treat, and now Naga kind of loves Lin more than Korra, because Korra didn't give her a treat in like the last episode. Yeah, they're going to the Misty Palms Oasis too. And they fixed the airship thanks to Asami. And then it's like, yep, you're part of the crew now. We're getting out of here. No problem with you. And as soon as this happens, yeah, the thing just bites the ship in half. That's Cabbage Corp engineering for you. Really, really solid stuff there. But it really gets over how powerful this sand shark is. Really cool. And they specifically say it's not a spirit, so that's interesting. It's just an animal, kind of like the unagi, I suppose, just a kind of weirder type of animal. And here's Sammy coming into play again. Let's make a sand sailor out of this. Yeah, we don't really see what I suppose the sandbenders specifically are up to. Are they still like living in the desert and stuff like that? It's not really important, but it would have been interesting to see them. Yeah, it's just interesting to see the Gorillas just chilling out. They're in the kind of palace and they're just like, yeah, we're just waiting for Korra to arrive so we can capture her in this trade that we're doing. And then Tahir's like, wait, Dai Li, I need to overhear what's going on here. There must be something secret going on with those guys. Then he finds out, look, Korra's not going to be here, the deal is off, the Queen is going to lie to me, I'm going to take control over here, I'm going to take out the Queen while I'm here, if I'm not going to get Korra. Interesting to see just the way his mind works in this situation. It's scenes like this that I wish we had more, where the group just talk to each other a bit. Like, you really don't get that much in the series. And here they come in. It's interesting. And like obviously, like the thing with Ming Hua here is that you see that she it looks like her arms are there just in some interesting clothes, but the things that are there in the place of her arms are just like basically big pouches full of water. Basically, they're her water arms under there. So that's interesting. How she brings in so much water with her. If you value your freedom, Zahir values that more than anything. So yeah, and obviously her bad personality comes across here, and yeah, she's just like, Dai Li, you guys get in there. And then it's just like, explosion, lava bending, amazing water bending, air bending. We win, you're dead, Earth Queen. It's, the Dai Li were such a threat in Avatar The Last Airbender, and this group just annihilates them. Good runs off. And Zahir's speech here is like amazing. The kind of analogy he makes between what is it? He like breathing and freedom and stuff like that. I don't believe in queens. There's some really great dialogue here from Zahir. And here's the technique. He's like, yeah, whoa, yes, you can actually bend the air out of someone's lungs and suffocate them that way. It's really like delicate technique as well for a guy who like basically taught himself from martial arts. Yeah. Freedom is just as essential as air. Without it, there is no life. Don't need darkness. And they show a lot there. Like, they show basically Zahir taking her last breath out of her body, and obviously, like, as she collapses off screen there, she dies. And the only thing with this show, because it's on Nickelodeon, they can't say specifically that the Earth Queen was killed, she died. They always say, like, she was taken out, and stuff like that. And yeah, this is something that sort of changes as they get more desperate. Like, oh, we're trying to help citizens like him, not hurt him. But then he like threatens Korra, give Korra over, or we'll kill the Air Nation. And it's interesting. He basically incites chaos and madness in the city, and it shows how his ideals were kind of overboard, in that he just expected Ba Sing Se to just be left as it is in chaos, and this spreading to the rest of the Earth Kingdom when they bring the walls down, as if the other countries wouldn't react to that and try and bring stability back to the kingdom. It's really interesting how like he's so shocked when Korra brings it up to him in book 4 that you doing that didn't help anyone. You just caused more problems for like normal people who weren't going to go around stealing and robbing to get their way. And yeah, another scene of someone taking down the walls of Ba Sing Se. This time Gazan with waterbending, but this time he takes down the kind of inner ring walls, kind of separating the classes. So we assume things change in the aftermath of Korra and stuff like that. But yeah, Mako just taking so long to firebend through the bars. And even if he did, like, what would that really accomplish? He'd have to get through so many of them. I mean, he's even doing it in what looks like the wrong position. Shouldn't he be doing it in the, like, other section where the bars aren't... There's not as many cross beams, but it's just technical stuff. But yeah, basically, Zahir's actions here allow for Kuvira to come into play in book 4, and that scene in book 4 is just so amazing. I'll obviously talk to it when I get to it in the commentaries, but it's really cool how the villain's kind of big moment in this book sets up something that happens in book 4. And yeah, they have the message. They're going to deliver the ultimatum, which is the title of the next episode. And stuff's starting to come into play here, but it's so late. This is episode 10. There's 3 episodes left after this one. And here's the sand shark stuff again. And again, it's one of those things where like I like the sand shark part of this episode, but there is too much time devoted to it compared to what is actually really important. Like they're trying to basically in this episode say that this them getting out of the desert is just as important as what the Red Lotus are doing. Like I would have much preferred that they basically half the time that they spent in the desert and just like, okay, Asami fixed the ship straight away. They got out the first time, and you can give the rest of that time to the Red Lotus and give them more character development. And then like that's the end of the sand shark. They did like Korra doesn't kill it there, but that's the end of the threat of the sand shark. It jumps up, she gives a small amount of firebending, wasn't even that impressive of a firebending move, and it just falls back into the sand, and they're free. It's kind of anticlimactic compared to what was set up. This thing bit their airship in half, and then it's fended off by just a little bit of fire to the mouth. And here's some sandbenders. We do actually get to see them. I kind of forgot about that. I wondered if someone actually buy that. And just like, hey, this is engineered better than the ones we make. You're pretty good. And yeah, like how she just apologizes to the guy who nearly had her captured, and they kind of realize she's good. And there's the hook hand. And she shakes it. It's hilarious. No apparent reason, just like, I have a hook for a hand. Not gonna say why, but... Druk. Amazing. Dragon. And they're like, yeah, let's go get a drink. And because they're in the Misty Palms Oasis, the drinks are in high supply. And then the reunion of Korra and Naga. Naga not annoyed after the lack of a treat, because Lin gave her a treat. And, yeah. They reunite with Zuko, Tunrock, and Lin. Zuko, it's great to see it again. It's like the Avatar meets Zuko again, but the next generation. It's great. I met you when you were very young girl, obviously defending her from the Red Lotus, I assume around the time when this happened. And then Korra finds out that the Queen's been taken out, what's going on in Ba Sing Se, and that Mok Mambolo had potentially been captured. And she reveals about the Red Lotus. And again, took out the Earth Queen. They just can't say that she was killed. It's a kind of really weird thing where like there's like the use of the word death. It's so weird. Like I understand like Nickelodeon want to avoid like bad language being in the show and stuff like that, but not confirming if a character died or not. That's a really weird thing when you really think about it. To like just not include in the show. Like it's really gonna like hurt kids to have it confirmed to them that yes, the villains of this book killed the evil queen. Like, is it really that big of a deal? But it's Nickelodeon's problems, and just kind of shows the difference in, like, say, Avatar compared to most other Western like animations and stuff like that. It is very anime-like, and in most animes, they're perfectly fine with saying dead, died, and stuff like that, like Naruto, Bleach, and stuff like that. But this show, which is effectively aimed at the same audience, they just can't do it because of the Nickelodeon network and stuff like that. So, interesting things. But yeah, that's been the commentary for K310, Long Live the Queen. I'll be back sometime during the week with K311, The Ultimatum. I'm going to also try and complete the Book 3 episode commentaries this week. There's no Star Wars Clone Wars this week, no Turtles this week, no new episodes aired, so I have a few kind of spare video slots, and I'll probably fill them up with Book 3 to get that done, and then I'll get straight into Book 4 commentary. So that's a quick update, but other than that, that's been the commentary. Thanks for listening, and bye.